Dad perfect events. I watched my own sons divide $150 million between themselves like they were splitting a pizza. Nathan got the tech company. Timothy inherited the real estate portfolio, the investment accounts, the luxury cars, everything. And me? After 40 years of building that empire from nothing, after sacrificing everything for my family, I got a dusty envelope that looked like trash from some forgotten drawer. My name is Howard Pierce. I'm 58 years old. And that day in the lawyer's office, watching my daughter-in-law, Victoria, laugh at my pathetic inheritance, I thought my life was over. "At least you can store old photos in it, Dad," she said, with that smirk I'd grown to hate. Nathan didn't even look at me. Timothy just sighed like my existence was some burden he had to tolerate. I walked out of Margaret Sullivan's law office feeling like 40 years of work meant nothing. But what they didn't know was that tonight, when I opened that despised envelope in my empty house, I would discover something that would turn their world upside down. My wife Helen had died 2 years ago. Pancreatic cancer took her in 8 brutal months. For 35 years, she'd been my partner in everything. When I was working 16-hour days building Pierce software from our garage, she handled the kids and never complained. When banks wouldn't lend us expansion capital, she sold her grandmother's jewelry to help fund our first big contract. She believed in me when nobody else would. I thought I'd raised my boys right, taught them about hard work, integrity, building something that lasts. But sitting in that lawyer's office, I realized I'd been blind to who they'd really become. The will reading was straightforward enough. Nathan, my older son at 35, got Pierce Software, the company I'd built from nothing into an $80 million operation. Timothy, 33, inherited the real estate holdings worth $70 million. Everything split clean down the middle, just like I'd planned. Then Margaret Sullivan looked at some papers and said, "For Mr. Howard Pierce." My heart jumped. After all those years of building wealth, surely Helen had left me something meaningful. "Your wife left you this personal envelope," Margaret said, handing me a yellowed envelope that felt practically empty. Victoria actually giggled. "Maybe it's old love letters," she said, in that condescending tone she used whenever she thought I couldn't hear the mockery. Nathan was already deep in conversation with Margaret about transfer procedures. Timothy was on his phone, probably calling his bookie. Yeah, I knew about that habit, though I'd been hoping he'd outgrow it. I took that envelope and left without a word. Nobody offered me a ride home. Nobody asked if I was okay. After 40 years of providing for them, I was invisible. That night, I sat in my study, the same room where Helen and I used to review contracts and plan our next business moves. Everything was quiet, too quiet. I'd been living alone for 2 years, but it never felt as empty as it did that night. I opened the envelope with shaking hands. Inside was a single sheet of paper in Helen's handwriting, her beautiful script that I'd seen on thousands of birthday cards and grocery lists and business notes over the years. For the man who truly built everything we have, it began. Then came the line that stopped my heart. Swiss National Bank, Geneva. Account number 8, CH-4429-7831. Current balance, $75 million. $75 million. Half of everything the boys had inherited combined. But Helen's letter continued. "They don't deserve to know the truth yet, but you do. Check the safe deposit box at First National, box number 447. The combination is our anniversary date, June 15th, 1985. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely hold the paper. Helen had hidden $75 million from everyone, including me. What else didn't I know? The next morning, I drove to First National Bank like a man in a trance. The safe deposit box was heavy, filled with documents, photos, audio recordings, and a thick envelope marked, "For Howard, when you're ready for the truth." I took everything home and spread it across my dining room table. What I found made me sick to my stomach. Helen had hired private investigators during her last year. She'd discovered Nathan wasn't the successful businessman he pretended to be. For 3 years, he'd been embezzling from Pierce Software to cover bad investments. Cryptocurrency speculation, tech startups that went nowhere. He'd lost $8 million of company money trying to get rich quick. The evidence was all there. Fake invoices, altered financial statements, unauthorized transfers. Nathan had been stealing from the company I'd built with my bare hands. But Timothy was worse. My younger son had a gambling addiction that started small and spiraled out of control. Casino debts, sports betting, underground poker games. He owed $3 million to people who didn't accept payment plans. The photographs showed him leaving casinos at 4 a.m., meeting with loan sharks, signing papers that put the entire family at risk. There were audio recordings, too. Helen had put listening devices in places where the boys thought they could speak freely. The conversations I heard broke whatever was left of my heart. When the old man finally kicks the bucket, Nathan's voice said clearly, "We split everything and get out of this mess." Timothy's response chilled me. "We might not have that long. My guys are getting impatient. Maybe we need to speed things up." "What do you mean?" "I mean, there are ways to make old people disappear. Nursing homes, medical emergencies, accidents, especially someone his age who lives alone. They were talking about getting rid of me, their own father. I sat there listening to my sons plan my demise like they were discussing weekend plans." The recording continued with Victoria's voice joining in. "Once he's out of the picture, we can liquidate everything and start fresh. Maybe move to Europe, where nobody knows about Timothy's problems." Helen's final letter explained everything. "I discovered this 6 months ago, but I was too sick to handle it alone. I've moved our real money to accounts only you can access. The boys can have what's in the official will. They'll lose it anyway with their addictions and stupidity. But the real fortune stays with the person who earned it. Use this information however you see fit. Protect yourself, Howard. They're not the sons we thought we raised." I sat in that dining room for hours, surrounded by evidence of my son's betrayal, photos of Nathan meeting with sketchy investment brokers, receipts showing Timothy's massive gambling losses, bank records proving the embezzlement, audio of them planning my demise. But what hurt most wasn't the money or even the murder plot. It was the realization that while Helen was dying, while I was focused on her care and my own grief, my sons were planning to rob and potentially kill me. The phone rang 2 days later. It was Nathan, using that fake, concerned voice he'd perfected over the years. "Dad, how are you holding up? Victoria and I were worried about you leaving so quickly the other day." "Worried, right," I almost laughed. "I'm fine, son. Just processing everything. Listen, we've been thinking that big house is probably too much for you to maintain alone. There are some really nice senior communities where you could have company, activities, people to look after you. There it was. The setup. Get me out of the house, into some facility where they could control access to me and my assets. That's thoughtful of you to consider," I said carefully. "Actually," Nathan continued, "Victoria found this place called Sunset Gardens. Very upscale, great amenities. We could tour it this weekend if you'd like." I'd heard of Sunset Gardens. It was one of those expensive warehouses where families dump inconvenient elderly relatives. Once you're in, you rarely get out. "Why don't we talk about it over dinner tomorrow?" I suggested. "Your house or mine? How about we come to you? Say 7 p.m.? "Perfect. That would give me 24 hours to prepare." After I hung up, I called Eugene Foster, a lawyer I'd known for 15 years but never used for family matters. Helen's documents included his business card with a note, "Trust him. He knows everything." Eugene came to my house that afternoon. Turns out Helen had briefed him extensively before she died. She'd seen this day coming and prepared for it. "She moved the real money to protect you," he explained. "But she also set up legal mechanisms to deal with your sons if they cross certain lines. Embezzlement, elder abuse, conspiracy. She documented everything. What are my options? Legally, you have them dead to rights. The evidence is overwhelming, but Helen wanted you to have choices. You can prosecute them fully, or you can give them a chance to make things right." That night, I did something I hadn't done since my Army days. I planned a tactical operation. Nathan and Timothy thought they were dealing with a broken-down old man. They were about to discover that the Howard Pierce who built a tech company from nothing was still very much alive. I set up recording equipment throughout the house, hidden cameras in the living room and dining room, audio devices that would capture everything they said. If they were going to incriminate themselves, I wanted it all documented. I spent hours reviewing Helen's evidence, memorizing every detail. The fake invoices Nathan had created, the casino receipts from Timothy's binges, the loan shark contracts with interest rates that would make your head spin, bank statements showing money disappearing faster than it came in. The next evening at 7 p.m. sharp, Nathan and Timothy showed up with Victoria in tow. They looked confident, almost excited. In their minds, they were about to close the deal on getting rid of dear old Dad. "Thanks for having us over," Nathan said, settling into Helen's favorite chair like he already owned the place. "We brought some brochures," Victoria added, pulling out glossy pamphlets for various senior facilities. "Just to give you some options to consider." Timothy was nervous, checking his phone constantly. Probably his bookies wondering when they'd get their money. "Before we talk about my living situation," I said, "I'd like to discuss the company finances. Nathan, I want to review the books. All of them." The color drained from Nathan's face. "Dad, that's really not necessary. Everything's running smoothly. You should focus on your retirement, not business details. Humor an old man. I built that company. I'd like to see how it's doing under your leadership." Victoria jumped in. "Mr. Brooks, with all due respect, complex financial statements might be confusing for someone who's been out of the business for a while." Confusing? I'd been analyzing balance sheets since before this woman was born. "I insist," I said firmly. Nathan and Timothy exchanged glances. They knew they were trapped. "Actually, Dad," Timothy said, "there's something more important we need to discuss. Your health. We're concerned about your memory, your decision-making ability." "My decision-making ability?" "Well," Nathan said, "you've been making some questionable choices lately. Talking to yourself, forgetting conversations. We think you might benefit from professional evaluation." There it was, the incompetency play. "Get me declared mentally unfit. Take control of my assets. Problem solved." "Interesting," I said, "because my memory is crystal clear. For instance, I remember the conversation you two had about speeding up my departure from this world." Dead silence. Timothy's face went white. Nathan tried to bluff. "I don't know what you're talking about." I pulled out my phone and played the recording. Their own voices filled the room, clear as day, discussing ways to make old people disappear and speed things up. "You recorded us?" Nathan shouted, jumping to his feet. "I sure did, just like I've been recording this entire conversation tonight." Victoria was backing toward the door. "This is insane. You can't just record people without consent." "Actually, in my own home, I can. Single-party consent state, remember? I am a party to this conversation." I walked to my desk and pulled out Helen's evidence box. "Your mother knew everything. The embezzlement, Nathan. The gambling debts, Timothy. The plan to have me declared incompetent or worse." Nathan's hands were shaking. "Dad, we can explain everything." "Oh, I'm sure you can. But first, let me explain something to you. That dusty envelope your mother left me? It contained access to $75 million. Money she moved to protect it from exactly this scenario." Timothy collapsed into a chair. Victoria ran for the bathroom, and I could hear her being sick. $75 million that you can't touch," I continued. "Money that's going to fund the prosecution of your crimes and the reconstruction of your lives, if you're lucky." "What do you want?" Nathan asked, his voice barely a whisper. "What do I want?" I stood up, feeling stronger than I had in years. "I want my sons back. Not these criminals who've been masquerading as my children. I want to know if there's anything left of the boys I raised, or if greed and addiction have killed them completely." Over the next hour, the truth came pouring out. Nathan confessed to stealing $8 million, thinking he could replace it before anyone noticed. Bad crypto investments, failed tech startups, pyramid schemes. He'd fallen for every get-rich-quick scam in Silicon Valley. "I thought I was smarter than everyone else," he said, tears streaming down his face. "I thought I could beat the system like you did when you built the company, but I just kept losing and losing." Timothy's story was even worse. The gambling had started in college with friendly poker games, then fantasy sports leagues with real money. Soon he was flying to Vegas every weekend, betting on everything from football to whether it would rain on Tuesday. "The debts kept growing," Timothy whispered. "These people, they don't just want money back. They want interest, penalties, fees. 3 million became 4, then 5. They threatened to hurt you and Nathan if I didn't pay." Victoria revealed she'd been the one pushing hardest for the nursing home plan. "I never meant for it to go this far," she sobbed. "But Nathan kept saying you'd never notice, that you were already forgetting things. I thought we could just borrow some money until his investments paid off. Here's what's going to happen," I told them. Nathan, you're going to resign from the company effective immediately. You'll pay back every penny you stole with interest from your inheritance. Timothy, you're checking into gambling addiction treatment tomorrow, and your creditors will be paid from your estate settlement. What about me? Victoria asked. You're going to sign divorce papers and walk away with nothing. Consider yourself lucky I'm not. Pressing charges for conspiracy. And if we refuse? Nathan asked. I smiled for the first time in weeks. Then Eugene Foster will deliver all this evidence to the district attorney Monday morning, and you'll both be facing federal charges for embezzlement, conspiracy, and elder abuse. They chose rehabilitation over prison. Nathan signed his resignation that night. Timothy called a treatment center the next morning. Victoria was gone by the weekend, leaving nothing but a forwarding address in California. The next 18 months were the hardest of our lives. Nathan worked construction for $15 an hour while paying back his debts. Timothy spent 8 months in residential treatment, then another 10 months in outpatient therapy. There were setbacks, relapses, moments when I thought I'd lost them forever. But slowly, gradually, I watched my sons transform into men I could respect again. Nathan learned what real work felt like, what it meant to earn every dollar through sweat and dedication. Timothy discovered that the rush of winning at cards was nothing compared to the satisfaction of helping other addicts find their way back from the edge. The company recovered under new management. The gambling debts were paid off. The stolen money was returned with penalties. It took time, but justice was served through the legal system, not through violence or revenge. Today, 2 years after that confrontation in my living room, I'm sitting in the same chair where I first opened Helen's envelope. But everything has changed. Nathan now works as a senior developer for a competitor, earning $85,000 a year instead of millions. But he's clean, honest, and for the first time in years, I'm proud when I introduce him as my son. He calls me every Sunday, not because he wants something, but because he genuinely wants to talk. We discuss business, life, the lessons he's learning about building success the right way. Dad, he told me last week, I never understood what you meant about earning. Respect until I had to start over. Working construction, having my coworkers question every decision I made, it taught me humility. I know now that the company wasn't just handed to you. You built it through decades of proving yourself every single day. Timothy completed his gambling addiction treatment and now runs a support group for other addicts. He'll be paying off his old debts for the next 8 years, but he's found something more valuable than any jackpot: purpose. Every week, he helps men who were just like him find their way back from the edge of financial and personal ruin. The rush of helping someone avoid the mistakes I made, he told me recently, is better than any winning streak I ever had. I'm saving lives now instead of destroying my own. Victoria disappeared completely after signing the divorce papers. Last I heard, she was working as a real estate agent in San Diego. That's fine by me. Some people change when they hit rock bottom. Others just find new ways to dig deeper. As for the $75 million Helen left me, I've used most of it to start the Helen Brooks Foundation for Elder Financial Protection. Turns out there are thousands of older Americans who've been victimized by their own families. Adult children who drain bank accounts, steal Social Security checks, force their parents to sign over property rights. Our foundation helps these victims fight back legally. We provide lawyers, financial advisors, investigators, everything they need to reclaim their dignity and their assets. In 2 years, we've helped over 400 families. The stories they tell me remind me how close I came to being just another victim. Last month, a 72-year-old woman named Dorothy came to our offices. Her son had convinced her to sign power of attorney, then systematically emptied her retirement accounts to fund his gambling addiction. Sound familiar? When she tried to revoke the power of attorney, he had her declared mentally incompetent and put in a nursing home. We got her out in 3 days. Our lawyers proved the competency hearing was fraudulent. Our investigators documented the financial abuse. Our counselors helped her rebuild her confidence. Today, she's living independently again, and her son is facing federal charges. Mr. Brooks, she told me at our last meeting, I thought my life was over. I thought I'd raised a monster and deserved what happened to me. Your foundation didn't just save my money, it saved my belief in myself. That's what this is really about. Not just money or revenge or even justice. It's about refusing to be invisible. It's about showing the world that being older doesn't mean being powerless. I've learned something important over these past few years. Family isn't just about blood. It's about people who show up for you when things get tough. Nathan and Timothy had to earn their way back into my life, but they did it through actions, not promises. My real family now includes the foundation staff who work tirelessly to help elder abuse victims, the support group that Timothy runs every Wednesday night in our conference room, the investigators who track down hidden assets and expose family financial fraud, the lawyers who fight in courtrooms across the country to protect seniors who can't protect themselves. Eugene Foster, the lawyer who helped me navigate the legal complexities of my son's crimes, recently joined our board of directors. Howard, he told me, what you've built here is bigger than revenge. It's about transformation, not just of your sons, but of how society treats elder financial abuse. He's right. When I first found Helen's envelope, I thought it was about getting even, but it became about getting better. Better sons, better relationships, better protections for people who've been overlooked and underestimated their entire lives. I'm 58 now, and I've discovered something that took me 6 decades to learn. The best years of your life don't have to be behind you. Sometimes the most meaningful chapters start when you think the story is over. Helen's envelope didn't just contain money. It contained a reminder that I was never just somebody's husband or father or victim. I was Howard Pierce, and I built my life through intelligence, hard work, and refusing to quit when things got tough. That dusty envelope saved more than my fortune. It saved my family, my dignity, and my sense of who I really am. Today, when I look in the mirror, I don't see a broken-down widower whose kids tried to rob him blind. I see a businessman, a foundation director, a father who taught his sons some hard lessons about integrity. Most importantly, I see a man who refused to go quietly into that good night. And sometimes that refusal to be invisible is worth more than all the money in the world. Sometimes the greatest inheritance isn't money. It's the courage to reclaim your power when everyone expects you to fade away quietly. The difference between being old and being wise is knowing. That respect isn't given based on age, but earned through the strength to stand up for what's right, no matter how late in life you discover it.